So Google is somehow losing the AI race because they just had one of their biggest launches of the year at I/O, and they announced a ton of new things, including their new language model 3.5 Flash, their video model Omni, agents in search, coding agents, and even a new smart glasses collab. And on paper, you look at that and you think, okay, Google should be crushing OpenAI and Claude, right? Well, not quite, because generally Google's AI announcements follow the same pattern, and it's one of two things. Either they have a crazy, insane demo that absolutely crushes all of the benchmarks and makes it seem like it's the best thing ever until you try it, or they announce 20 different products that are all sort of the same variation of one another, and no one knows which ones to use, so they inevitably get zero usage and get killed 6 months down the line and go to the Google graveyard. And this product launch is a perfect example of that, especially if you take a closer look at their product strategy and what they did with Gemini 3.5 and Gemini Omni, their video model.
Google has way too many front doors. They have so many products that it is impossible to know which one to use, okay? Let's just go through a couple, and there are more, I'm sure of it, okay? They have the Gemini app, so this is the consumer AI app. They have AI mode. They have search agents, which we didn't even cover. They have Workspace Gemini, which is Gemini inside of your workspace, and if you've ever used it, it's just awful. They have Flow, which is different than their Gemini app. So Flow is supposed to be their creative studio. I'm not sure. They have Anti-Gravity, which is their originally a coding agent, which is now a general agent tool. I don't know. AI Studio Builder interface. This is the one thing that I actually use. I think it's nice because it is the one interface that you can use everything. They have Notebook LM. They have Gemini Spark. They have which are recurring agents that you can have 24/7. Where does one person decide to go to when they are looking at the Gemini ecosystem, at the Google ecosystem, right? They have all of my data, all of my documents in Google Drive. They have a YouTube. They have access to maps. They have basically trillions of data points about me at this point, I'm sure of it. And yet there are 9 different places where I can somehow figure out how to use it. And the worst part though is some of these don't even work with one another, by the way. Like, oh, you want to use Workspace Gemini to with the Gemini app, but you also maybe want to use it in Gravity. Nah, good luck. Those are completely different things. Can compare that to what OpenAI and Anthropic have. It's just these two things. They have OpenAI has ChatGPT, which is their consumer web-facing app, and they have Codex, and Claude has the Claude web app and Claude Code. And the thing is, if you've tried any of these tools, you can see how interchangeable they are. OpenAI even lets you use Codex from the ChatGPT app. Claude similarly lets you use Claude Code from the Claude app. You don't need to look around and figure out which tool do I need to use for coding. It's just Claude Code, Codex, ChatGPT. Versus, oh, you want to code with Google? All right, well, you got to download Anti-Gravity. Oh, you want like a general assistant? Okay, go ahead and do that. Oh, you want to use like workspace agents and like maybe some search agents? Oh, you want to use AI Studio? Okay, you got to go to that. And the thing is, this is what Google always does. They have 500 different products that they never know how to unify under one. And I think it's just the nature of just they are such a big company. They are it is so difficult for a company like that to have one unifying person come in and say, "Hey, look, we're going to take everything and we're going to put it into a single or two cohesive products." People just Google just too big to have that. There's too many conflicting people who have, managers who might say, "Well, no, my product does." Like at a company at the size of Google, it's a miracle that they've even gotten here because I would have not expected them to get to here. But it really does seem like they're kind of floundering all over the place. By far, the worst case offender of sort of the Google benchmark maxing slash like demo, wow, like look at this flash factor, has to be Gemini 3.5 Flash, which is supposedly their strongest, most powerful model they've ever created yet. Now, this model is multimodal natively, so it supports a bunch of different inputs from audio to video to anything you can imagine. It also can reason, and it can output 64,000 tokens. And it is a very strong model, or so they say. And I will give them credit. They have some good benchmarks. They even have some benchmarks where they're able to beat out Claude Opus and GPT 5.5 on some agentic ones. And you're like, look at this at a glance, you're like, wow, this is pretty good. But what people don't realize is there's a lot of nuance behind these evals that once you dive into, you start to realize, whoa, wait a minute. Is that actually better? So here's the thing that people have forgotten. When Google first announced the Flash series of model, they were supposed to be the cheap workhorse models. I mean, I used it basically every day at my company because it was just such a cheap and efficient model. Like nothing really compared. Google was also one of the first companies to announce that they had 1 million context. At the time, in 2024, which is eons ago in AI, this was state of the art. This was insane that the company could have a million context model and they could serve it to you at something that didn't cost, a bajillion dollars. And these models were maybe not the smartest, but they were by far the most efficient and they had a very, very good niched use case. And that was, I need cheap, somewhat decent intelligence that I could just run 24/7 on. But that is no longer the case because let's just take a look at the pricing that Google has for their Gemini model. So we're not going to start with 1.5, but let's take a look at Flash, okay? So this model, when Flash first came out, almost 2 years ago, a little bit under 2 years ago, it was priced at 10 cents per 1 million input and 40 cents per 1 million output. So it would be about 50 cents for 1 million in and 1 million out, okay? Which is very, very cheap by today's standard. What about 2.5? Okay, that was their next model. Well, basically had a 5.6x increase in price. Gemini 3 Flash, well, that's a 7x increase over what we had originally. And then let's take a look at 3.1. So they had a bunch of different models, right? They had Gemini Flash Live, they had Lite. So roughly you're looking at anywhere between a 5 to about 10x increase in the 3.1 series. Now that takes us to 3.5, okay? We are looking at a 21x increase in price based compared to the original 2.0 Flash model. Okay, the model that was originally intended to be for long context processing, documents, throw a bunch of text at it and let it process all of that for basically nothing is now extremely expensive. Like just taking a look at the price bump here. It is so expensive that when you look at this $1.50 input and $9 output, you start to think, wait a minute, why would I use Gemini 3.5 Flash? Because this is now becoming very similar price point to the state-of-the-art OpenAI and Anthropic models. How does that look like? Okay, well, artificial analysis did some breakdown of the cost. So on the left here, you have Opus 4.7, which is a very, very expensive model. You have Claude Sonnet 4.6. Then you have extra high, GPT 5.5, and then you have GPT 4.5.4 extra high. Then you have Gemini 3.5 Flash, okay? This is including reasoning, and which is something that, of course, Google did not include in their I/O announcement. Because guess what? When you include reasoning tokens, because most of these models reason for a very, very long time, you get billed the same rate, but your price goes up significantly higher because these models will just think for so long and just chug through your token. And guess what? It is actually more expensive than GPT 5.5 on Medium. Now, if we take a look here at the intelligence, right? Let's see, how does this compare? So this graph sort of shows you on the x-axis is the cost to run, and then on the y-axis is intelligence. So generally, top right means that it's going to be the most expensive, but the smartest, and then the bottom left is going to be a little bit dumber, but the cheapest. Okay, so you have GPT 5.5 here at the highest level, and so you have Claude Opus a little bit under, but Claude Opus is costing a bit more. So let's take a look here. Wow, would you look at that? Gemini 3.5 Flash, definitely not the smartest. There's Gemini 3.1 and GPT 5.5 Medium. But guess what? It is more expensive. So not only is this a less intelligent model, it's also more expensive, which basically just defeats the original purpose of the Flash series of model to be cheap, affordable intelligence. Now, if this was moved maybe somewhere here, I think people would be okay with it. This model is literally not going to get any usage. I just cannot seem to see where any developer would use Gemini 3.5 Flash because it is just too expensive for the number of intelligence you get. And guess what? It's not even that great at coding. So they announced anti-gravity with Gemini 3.5 Flash, sort of their agentic. It's not even a coding tool anymore. It's like their agentic workspace, supposed to be a Codex competitor. But let's take a look at this. This is the cursor benchmark for their CLI tool, Terminal Bench. Um, Guess what? Okay, let's take a look at that. So Composer 2.5 is Cursor's model that they announced. Gemini 3.5. Okay. So not only did it score 13% lower than Composer, it also cost like 4 times the amount. This model just seems to make no sense to me whatsoever. Like, I don't know where this model positions. Like, unless you literally cannot use any other model from Google, like from any other provider, then sure, you're stuck into this. But if you're a developer or you are someone who has access to a bunch of different tools that you can kind of hop from, it doesn't make sense like why and when you would use 3.5 Flash over the rest of these here. And I get it. Google needs to have some good news. They need to be able to announce something to their investors, to the world, signaling, hey, look, we are a $5 trillion company and we can ship models. Like, I would see the reasoning behind it. But to me, it is a little disappointing that they have, again, they have all of the data, all of the context, and they just can't ship a state-of-the-art model that's cost effective. And that's just their large language model, Gemini 3.5 Flash. Because if you take a look at Omni, it's not as bad, but it's a very similar story. So Gemini Omni is supposed to be Google's, I'm not sure if this is supposed to be their VO replacement or a different kind of model that's more around world models. But anyways, it is their latest video model. And interestingly enough, they sort of phrase it as create anything from any input starting with video. I'm not sure where they're going to go with that. But this is a very interesting model because it's not actually purely for video generation. And again, it's a very confusing model. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be something that developers or just users are supposed to use or supposed to be a stepping stone. They kind of call it as the nano banana of video, which I guess it makes sense. Like Nano Banana absolutely crushed it. They were able to sort of create one of the best image models, but the more you sort of look at it, like it's hard to really find the use case for this model other than some very fun, more quirky style ones. Like here, I think they like uploaded this video and then they just edited it. It's an interesting model, but here's the other problem is this that it's not even the best model. Now, I get it. It's for editing, which there has some use case. Like there's some really cool, interesting use cases that would be fun to try out, but in the real world, it sort of kind of loses out to some other models that are already available. And so the big one is Seedance. I'm sure everyone has already seen Seedance 2.0. It's a Chinese model from Alibaba, which just went absolutely bazooka viral. That's been around for a few months now. Now let's take a look at how it compares to Gemini Omni. So I'm guessing on the top is they gave it the original video, which is Seedance 2.0, and then they edited it with Gemini Omni Flash. Okay, right off the bat, this just seems completely useless. You can't even generate that first original one, but maybe something a little bit more clear, okay? So here is one video with Seedance. This is a 15-second clip. All right, it's pretty good. And now this is Gemini Omni.
Oh my God, he's actually here.
The
Please
audio
sign
is
this
awful.
for me.
I mean, I'll let you. I will let you guys decide for yourself which one is better. But from everything I've seen and everything I've tried, I have yet to find a use case for Gemini Omni other than just like for fun videos where I can create little like diagrams that appear on like the screen that I'm taking a video of. And this is the disappointing part, right? You would expect like a company like Google who has access to YouTube, the world's biggest data set of video, would maybe produce something a little bit better. Like I'll give them credit where credit is due. They did make a very good editing model, but it just seems like I'd expect more from a company worth $5 trillion that do hundreds of billions of dollars of revenue with just their whole company being completely and entirely about AI. Like to me, Google should be the one company that should be able to deliver the universal AI experience. You have my data, you have the TPUs, you have the compute, you have every single thing. You have billions of users who can get access to these Gemini models, and yet I don't know a single person who uses the assistants from Google. Maybe here and there they use it for a couple of things, but everyone I know, they just end up going to ChatGPT or Claude. And it is, to me, a very concerning position for Google to be in, right? A year ago, they were doing pretty good. They had a bunch of models that were coming out. I was actually very bullish. I've completely changed my tone now. I am quite concerned and bearish for their AI strategy. Do they do something with DPUs? I'm not sure, but I will tell you this much. If they do not figure out a way to launch a model that is genuinely competitive with OpenAI and Anthropic, figure out how to unify their 800 tools, they're going to get left behind in the AI race, and there's only going to be two companies left. I don't hope that's the case because I think it's very important that we have competition, but it really does feel like Google is trending in that direction. They need to ship a model that is very, very competitive, or like before, just keep at it at where you're good at. Keep the model cheap. You have the TPU stack, you have the ability to sort of figure out how to serve these models cheaper. Do that because that is a competitive edge. Or improve the areas where other companies don't have models, like Nano Banana, or maybe VO4, VO5. I'm not sure if that's going to come out. They really need to figure out what their niche is, carve it out, and just win that. Like, absolutely dominate it. And then once they have the trust of everyone, you can go to the other ones. And a great example of that is Nano Banana, where they launched it. They absolutely crushed it, and now every single person uses it. Right? It's such a crazy, powerful model. But yeah, that is it for today. Like I said, I don't think they're completely cooked, but I do think they just have a very big product issue that they just need to figure out. And once they do that, I think they'll kind of be back on the path. So that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, or if you like kind of more breakdowns of what companies are doing, let me know in the comments. I can make more like these, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.